We are only days away from week 1. And today, Zach is going to be bringing you his top 30 running backs going into the 2023 season. His final top 30 running backs going into this season.
Going to be bold with it today.
Yeah, we're going to be breaking down all 30 players, running backs here, breaking it down into tiers. And let's not waste any more time. Make sure you drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Do what you got to do. And let's get straight into the tiers, Zach. Take us through your first tiers.
Okay. The first tier is simple. I don't think we need to spend too much time about it. It's Christian McCaffrey. I'll just say, like, Twitter version. I feel like if CMC is not the number one running back for someone, I think they're trying to reinvent the wheel or be ahead of their time.
Right.
There's no reason as to why Christian McCaffrey in this offense shouldn't be a top 3 player at the position, barring any injury. So on a fantastic offense, is going to get work through the air and on the ground. Keep in mind, these are PPR rankings. So McCaffrey is going to absolutely dominate in PPR formats. He's a lock to be a top 3 pick. He's my second overall pick.
Yeah, no, makes sense. CMC averaging over 21 points per game. I mean, he probably would have finished RB1 this past year, but Austin Eckler had 107 receptions, which is absolutely crazy. So
that's going to come down for Eck as well.
Oh, 100%.
CMC is the only one I have over 350 PPR points in my projections this year, but I mean, that I guess takes us directly into the second tier, which would be Austin Eckler and Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson, a little bit of a projection, I guess you could say.
Yep.
But if you look at the history of running backs with Bijan's draft capital, running backs drafted top 8, you have never been disappointed.
No.
Not never, but let's say in the last 5 to 10 years, you have not been disappointed drafting a running back. I mean, even Trent Richardson was awful in his career, but was incredible in his first rookie season. These electric, talented running backs that are drafted that high are never bad picks for fantasy football. I have him around 315 PPR points this year. I think he's going to be a monster, not only on the ground, but through the air. I've given him 61 targets, which, I don't know if that's high or low. It's how I envision this offense outworking itself. And, so not as many targets as an Eckler's going to get, a McCaffrey's going to get, but I would argue he's going to be more efficient on the ground and have a bigger year on the ground than those two guys.
Yeah.
And then Eckler is my RB2. In a PPR format, he's likely going to see anywhere from 90 to 100 targets, even with the new additions.
Makes sense.
So those are running backs. You just cannot mess this up with these 3 guys at the top here.
Yeah, absolutely love it. Austin Eckler, Bijan Robinson. I think I always say this every single time. I think the last time running backs I would draft in the top 12, they have finished their rookie season top 11 running backs there that season. So that's really exciting for Bijan Robinson.
It's a good bet, man.
Yeah, 100%. And Austin Eckler. All right, take us to your tier 3.
Okay, tier 3. I would say things get a little interesting, but
okay.
I don't think it's that crazy, honestly, like when I think about it. And I would just encourage people when they listen to my final rankings, just keep in mind that when you see preseason ADP and how the year finishes for fantasy, every year, that looks completely different. So, don't be thrown off if someone has different rankings to yourself. It's always good to hear different opinions. That's what makes fantasy great.
Absolutely.
But my RB4, it might be a little bit aggressive, is Tony Pollard. Very excited for Tony Pollard this year. Zeke is gone, and we know for sure he's not coming back. He's in New England.
Yeah.
And behind Tony Pollard, we believe is Rico Dowdle, who will get, I've given him 23% of the rushing opportunity. So that's 115 rushes. I've only given Tony Pollard 53% of the rushing opportunities and 12% of the target share. So that's 264 rushes and 77 targets. I think he's an absolute lock for over 1,300 all-purpose yards and let's say 10 touchdowns. I believe we could be seeing like the first year of his Austin Eckler era, if you will.
Okay.
A lot of people putting him down, saying he's not able to do it, saying he's undersized. I mean, come on, like this is not a running back who's 200 pounds or 190 pounds. He's 210, 212-ish. Like he can handle a workload. And I think he's going to be electric, especially through the air with this team, high-powered offense. My RB 5 would be Saquon Barkley.
Come on, baby.
Then we've got Nick's got a big old chub.
Let's go.
And welcome back to the team, Josh Jacobs Jingleheimer Schmidt finishes off my tier 3. I'm not sure if you have any questions there, but I mean, these are all running backs that you should feel comfortable drafting. either at the turn of the first round or in the second round, guys that can be pillars for your fantasy teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony Pollard definitely is easily going to take a step up. Ezekiel Elliott leaving behind 231 attempts on the ground, which is absolutely crazy. And Tony Pollard finished higher with 193 attempts. Obviously, he has significant work in the air, but that is different. Still, I see Tony Pollard definitely finishing as a top 10, top 8 running back here. Saquon Barkley, Nick Chubb, all the same here. Like you said, welcome back Josh Jacobs, leading rusher this past year amongst running backs, over 1,600 yards. J.K. Dobbins, Josh Jacobs is back with the team. He has signed his contract extension. If you have drafts coming up this week, kind of what I've been preaching, I think we've both been preaching, until you see him on the practice field and with the team, don't draft him. But since he signed this contract, he's going to be with the team. He's going to be practicing leading into week 1 against whoever they're playing. I don't even know who they're playing week 1, which is the Broncos. They're playing the Broncos, actually. Going into week 1, you are going to be drafting Josh Jacobs, I would say easily within the middle of the second round now comfortably.
He's someone I'm super comfortable taking at the turn even. If Saquon and Chubb are gone in the first round and you at the 112, if you can go like a Garrett Wilson and a Josh Jacobs, just as an example, AJ Brown and a Josh Jacobs, it feels really, really comfortable. Last year he handled 80% of the team's rushing opportunities, which is ridiculous. I've taken 8% of that away and given a little bit of that to Zamir White. I anticipate him playing a bigger role. And he still ended up being a top 8 running back in my rankings. So I feel very confident with him, confident to draft him, confident that he will be a crucial part of this offense.
Yeah, absolutely. So all tiers 1 to 3, you guys can see is CMC, Eckler, Bijan, Tony, Saquon, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs. Now take us through your tier 4.
Yeah, just before we get to the tier 4, if you guys want rankings that are going to consistently update, if you want weekly rankings, advice with start sits this year, etc., a DM where you can ask us advice, a personalized DM, then go ahead and use our code LAND when signing up to the Flock Fantasy website. Choose the Mother Flocker tier. That's it. DM us, and we'll get you all set up. You'll have all that and more. So in tier 4, I know this is a player that you're higher on. I'm happy to answer any questions. This is where I would put Derrick Henry. I would not choose Derrick Henry ahead of the likes of Saquon Barkley, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard. I know some people might disagree with me on that, and I'm happy to answer any questions. A guy that really... I would say surprised me once my projections were fully done was how high I am on Joe Mixon. Happy to talk about him, but man, that offense is going to be so good. There is no competition. Samaje Perine's gone. And Joe Mixon was an absolute monster in the air last year. Gave him such a safe floor. After Joe Mixon, I've got Travis Etienne, who I am bullish on. Jahmyr Gibbs, you could go either way with those two. And then lastly, Jonathan Taylor. I think this is where you kind of draw the line. If you asked me this question 2 weeks ago, where would you draft Jonathan Taylor? I probably would have him lower than this, but the reports are coming out pretty strong that he's likely to be traded. I did not see that being a possibility, especially 2 weeks until the season at that time. Nobody is paying running backs. Nobody wants to trade for running backs. So to know that there's a realistic possibility he could end up in Miami, Buffalo, one of these big offenses, that's exciting to me. He's a risk reward pick like Josh Jacobs was, but it's a further extent because there's no good vibes between the team.
Right.
But those are my tier 4 running backs there.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense. Look, Derrick Henry, you guys know, if you guys have been following us, I love Derrick Henry coming into this year. He's still my RB3. I think he's going to continue to eat in this offense. Yes, you get DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, this past year, over 349 attempts on the ground, 1,500 yards. I think that kind of continues. And I agree. The way I'm seeing Derrick Henry can continue drafting until the wheels fall off. And maybe this is the year. We've been saying that for the past 2 years, to be completely honest. Well, not we, but everyone. The fantasy community has been saying that.
No, for sure.
So I understand why you may have him here, so that's fine. Joe Mixon, top 5 in goal line yard or, red zone attempts within the 5-yard line, which is incredible. And Travis Etienne, Jahmyr Gibbs, I think are really, really close to me, are the same in my rankings. But I think the biggest one I want to talk about is JT.
Okay.
When can you risk it? I mean, people are drafting. Maybe you're watching this. You're watching in the middle of the week. You have a draft this weekend. JT still hasn't reported. He's not with the team. I mean, how early can we truly take Jonathan Taylor right now? Because we had a draft. We've done already multiple drafts with our home leagues, follower leagues, and I completely avoided him. We see him going in the third round, fourth round. I'm just not sure I still want to take him without news that he's with the team or with the Colts or any team.
Yeah, this could get really ugly if there's not a deal that gets done. I could legitimately see him not playing if a deal doesn't get done with the team and he doesn't get traded. There's some genuine bad blood.
100%.
Shout out to Taylor Swift. Someone put a tweet out, was like, the Eagles have the chance to do the craziest thing ever and add Jonathan Taylor, so their backfield is Taylor Swift. Look, I lean risk averse.
Agreed.
At Jonathan Taylor's ADP, he's going to be a second or early third round pick. You're telling me I can either take a Jahmyr Gibbs there or wide receivers like Chris Olave, or a tight end like Mark Andrews. I'm not like losing out by taking these players that I love. So yeah, in most cases, I'm just gonna let him fall because I don't want a pick that I take with one of my first 3 picks to be in question. So and we're not even sure what he will do week 1. We don't even know where he's gonna be. So round 4 is when I would pull the trigger.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, our latest real league with our community, the Alpha League, he went at the 3-4. I don't know if I can do that.
It's tough.
Shout out to them who did that. Take us to tier 5 now.
Okay, tier 5 is where things get really weird for me. Again, please keep in mind that the season doesn't finish in fantasy the way ADP currently says it will.
Sure.
So just try and walk with me here. We've got Najee Harris, not too weird.
No.
Gets a little weird now. Welcome Alexander Mattison to tier 5. Yes, Alexander Mattison, my RB13. You are either in or you are out on Alexander Mattison. You either hate the pick or you think that people are not realizing the value there. That's where I stand. I also stand there with James Conner. 2 honorable my guys. James Conner actually my guy, and Alexander Mattison made the honorable list. And then right after them, we have 2 pass catchers that I really like, and Aaron Jones and Ramondre Stevenson. Okay. So happy to answer any questions here, because I know that it's not consensus where I have some of these players ranked.
Yeah. Look, I'm with Alexander Mattison. I think I said this last time, I think I might have asked you this question last time.
Yeah.
You're probably projecting getting a lot of work in the air, because I just can't back it. I see him finishing top 20, maybe around 16, 17, 18 area, but top 15 for me is a bit of a stretch in my eyes. Somebody that I would take Aaron Jones, James Conner, Ramondre Stevenson over Alexander Mattison. I understand Dalvin Cook is no longer here, leaving behind a ton of work that we've seen in the past, leaving behind 264 attempts on the ground and, over 50 targets in the air. So I see the pathway. I just don't know if I trust in Mattison in this offense, especially with the weapons around him.
And I can hear that, and I totally respect it. I think something that is really significant is not what the people have said, but what has this organization done? In an offseason where no one's paying running backs, where you can get Zeke Elliott a couple weeks before this season to be your starting running back. They dropped Dalvin Cook. Kareem Hunt's still available. They decided to bring Madison back, not on a 1-year deal, a 2-year deal. They have vocally stated he will be the guy. He's going to fill the shoes. Behind him is Ty Chandler, Dwayne McBride, who's a 7th-round pick. I've given Ty Chandler 25% of the rushing opportunities, only 57% of the opportunities to Alexander Mattison. That still puts him about 240 rushing attempts. I do think he's going to be a threat in the air. If you look at every fantasy analyst for the past couple of years has told you Alexander Madison's a league winner if Dalvin Cook goes down. And now the team has given him a contract and let Dalvin Cook go, and they're still scared. They're still worried. But 6 games Alexander Madison played without Dalvin Cook. With the Vikings, he's averaging over 20 points per game. He's averaging, I believe, 4.5 targets per game. I have him statted out about 4 targets per game. And I don't think 4 is unrealistic because I believe that this team is going to pass the ball more than they ever have. Last year, they were 3rd in passing attempts. I have them 3rd in passing attempts this year, only behind the Chargers and the Chiefs. Kevin O'Connell leading the way, adding another receiver. And the the defense in Minnesota is truly tragic. The only way the Vikings are going to be winning games is if their offense, everybody is eating. Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, Alexander Madison. These guys are going to eat. It's a fantasy factory over there in Minnesota. Only the Lions gave up more yards to opposing offenses than the Vikings last year.
Right.
And it's a huge gap from those teams to the rest of the pack. They got rid of Dalvin Tomlinson. They traded away Zadarius Smith. I know they brought in Byron Murphy, but that defense is going to be bad again. They're going to need to throw the ball a ton. Plenty of dump-offs will be available for Alexander Madison. Design screen plays. So I think I'm being generous giving him only 10% of the target share there. But you're either in or out on this guy. I'm in. I'm in on Alexander Madison. I think he's a great pick this year. And the only reason he's not going to lead this team is if an injury occurs.
Yeah, and that's probably the case here. It's going to be interesting to see. I think this team is stacked with weapons. And I think my envision is it's hard to see him getting the opportunity. I think he'll be a goal line guy without a doubt. I think I don't know about 4. I would say maybe 3. I would say 4. I would say 3. Okay. 3 to 4 targets a game, I guess you say. You said 4 targets, right?
Think about it from this perspective, though, right? Kansas City had very valuable pass-catching running back last year in Jerick McKinnon. Mm-hmm. They're ahead of the Vikings in passing attempts in my projections, and only the Chargers ahead of them in my projections, which are backed by history. Like last year, Kevin O'Connell threw the ball just this much. The Chargers had a pretty good pass-catching running back as well. When the pie is so large, there's room for everyone to eat. And I think that's what's super important to focus on here. Not so much, is Alexander Madison the most talented running back in the world? No, we all know that's not the case. But he's the most talented running back on this roster, and he's the best pass catcher as well. So I think it's not so much is he good enough, it's the volume that this offense will see. I just feel like it's the perfect storm for them.
Yeah, look, definitely could be the case. We'll obviously wait and see. Week 1, only days away, guys. I cannot wait for that. Take us to Tier 6 here.
Okay, Tier 6. Let's get through it, and then I'll answer any questions. Mm-hmm. Give me Miles Sanders. Big fan of Sanders this year.
Yep, love it.
Then Breece Hall. We've got David Montgomery, who is my guy this year. Alvin Kamara. Kenneth Walker, who I feel better about knowing that he's practicing. Mm-hmm. J.K. Dobbins, and then Javonte Williams finishes off this tier. These are all running backs that, they don't scare me. Maybe Breece Hall is the only one. They don't scare me because I feel confident in the roles within their offense and what they're going to contribute. But let me know if you have any questions about those guys. Ideal RB2s we're looking at here. Ideal second RBs on your team, or third if you're going a strong running back start.
Strong running back. Yeah, absolutely. So look, Miles Sanders. I think I agree with everyone here. Obviously, there is one running back that you haven't mentioned that I would also put in this tier. Mm-hmm. I feel really confident with. I know you're going to talk about that later. Let's talk about 2 players, Breece Hall, and then let's talk about 3. Breece Hall, Alvin, Kenneth Walker. Really quick summary of how fast, where you would take Breece Hall, where you take Alvin Kamara, and why you feel more confident in Kenneth Walker.
Well, I'm not touching Breece until the 5th round, but he's going to go in the 4th, so I'm not going to have any of him.
Yeah.
And a big reason why I'm not taking Breece is because of Dalvin Cook, which he will be, I believe, in my Tier 7, which we'll talk about here in a second.
Yep.
But Dalvin Cook got the most money. If you look at just for a year salary, 1 year, Dalvin Cook got the most money in free agency this year. And I don't think he joins this team with that kind of money just to be an accessory. Dalvin Cook's still a guy who put up over 1,000 yards on the ground. I think over 1,300 all-purpose yards last year, if I'm not mistaken. Not only is he good on the ground, he's great in the air. We saw him have a ton of explosive plays through the screen game as well last year. So you can't be on like one heavy side of this, in my opinion. Like if you're a Breece Hall stan and you love him, you're probably saying the talent wins out. If you have Dalvin Cook on your roster, you're probably saying, well, he's been doing it for so many years. He's been that guy. There has to be somewhere in the middle where we meet. And I see these guys getting almost 50% of the workload each. I think it's going to be very split, but you might see Breece kind of start to take over towards playoff time. So He's a player that's exciting, but I think I might target him in a trade rather than drafting him. He's too high, his ADP.
Which makes sense. If you're going robust RB, let's say you get, Bijan Robinson and Josh Jacobs, hypothetically. Yeah. Well, maybe not Josh Jacobs anymore. Bijan Robinson and Tony Pollard, right?
You could still pull off that Josh Jacobs,
maybe. But like, if it comes to the third, fourth round, and Brees is still there, I feel comfortable taking Brees in a robust kind of strategy. But if Brees is going to be your RB2, I think that's kind of where you can go wrong and really hurt your team and your outlook trying to get into that championship. So definitely take Brees Hall as more of an RB3 that you can sit on your bench and then let him grow throughout the season.
Sure. Yeah, I hear you. Alvin Kamara, what questions do we have? Sorry.
Alvin Kamara, I guess it would be the same. Alvin Kamara, I think we kind of spoke about him earlier. Don't take him as an RB2, kind of like Brees Hall. Don't take him as an RB2. Draft him more as an RB3. But Kenneth Walker, I think, is the one that I want to touch on really fast, really quick. 150 characters or less. Why you feel more comfortable with Kenneth Walker?
I feel more comfortable because he's practicing. That's it. I mean, really, like he's back out there. I do think Charbonnet is going to play an important part. Mm-hmm. I have Charbonnet with 31% of the rushing opportunities and Ken Walker with 50% of the rushing opportunities. The thing that really worries me about Walker is that he's not, like, I'm sorry, but he's not the better pass catcher. Zach Charbonnet is the better pass catcher. He has a better collegiate profile as a pass catcher. Over 40 receptions his last year at UCLA, if I'm not mistaken. Kenneth Walker is definitely going to be more efficient on the ground, but I do worry that there won't be any sort of third down role. I don't think you weren't even seeing him on third downs. You were seeing a lot of DJ Dallas and even last year. So I don't think you draft a running back in the second round in Charbonnet and then not use him. So I am comfortable with him because I think this is going to be a good offense and he will get a lot of goal line opportunities. But I'm not personally drafting him. I'm choosing other positions at that point of my rankings just because Charbonnet does worry me. And it is a groin injury that he dealt with last year. So
yeah, no, makes sense.
I might be lower than consensus. I don't know.
Yeah, I can respect it. All right, take us. We have about 7 minutes left. I think we could do the last two tiers in about 7 minutes. So take us to tier 7 and tier 8.
Yeah, this tier 7 is actually exciting for me. Rachaad White, Dameon Pierce, I guess not. I don't love Dameon Pierce, but Cam Akers. I'm saying this tier 7 is exciting because I feel like these are running backs that if you go wide receiver heavy in your drafts, these are really ideal guys to kind of grab a couple of. Like if you start with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Devontae Adams and you get Keenan Allen in the third, and in the fourth round you grab I don't know, Tyler Lockett, for example. I don't know, DK Metcalf. Okay. You start to build your team. You get a quarterback, you get a tight end that you love, and then all of a sudden you're in the 8th round and Rachaad White's there. 7th round, Rachaad White's there. It's exciting because of the amount of work that these guys could see. Rachaad White, unquestionably the number one. Dameon Pierce will be like the 65% guy. Dalvin Cook, he's less numbers, more efficiency, and a good offense. And then Cam Akers, another example of just a running back who will get a ton of carries. There's not much competition there. So these are guys that I recognize I'm lower on Dameon Pierce than ADP. But these are guys that excite me as potential late round values. I can recognize that I won't have Dameon Pierce because no one has him ranked this low. So I can understand that. It's just the offense that he's a part of. They, for me, are tied for the least amount of offensive plays in the NFL this year. So
okay. No, that makes sense. Dameon Pierce is someone that I love. I think he is my tier 6. He is somebody that I can see drafting. That's probably my biggest tier. If I really think about it, I have Dameon Pierce and Cam Akers also above him, that tier 6. I'm also a massive believer in Cam Akers. Weeks 13 to 18, he was a top 5 running back, top 8 running back, a league winner for you guys in the second half of the season. And in reality, this opportunity hopefully gets better with him now that Cooper Kupp's there. You're gonna kind of have to double Cooper Kupp. Matthew Stafford is there, so a lot of people think that can hinder Cam Akers. I think that in reality that can help Cam Akers in so many different ways because he was playing with Baker Mayfield in the second half of the season and they were just feeding him the ball. But yeah, Dameon Pierce, another guy I really believe in. I really hope that look, I understand the lowing, attempts or offensive snaps coming into 2023 with a rookie quarterback, a new head coach, everything happening. But I think Dameon Pierce can eat because he's, CJ Stroud might be leaning on him. And plus, I think he's also a great running back that can get you a decent fantasy points when it comes down to it, whether it's 12 to 15 fantasy points per game. That's what I'm really hoping for with Dameon Pierce. So
yeah, I mean, you are even someone who loves him. You're a stan, and you can't. The most that you could say about him was he can be decent. That was your high praise for him. Even people who like Dameon Pierce aren't sure about.
I mean, he did well last year. I mean, in that stretch,
he did do well last year. Yeah.
Weeks 3 to 10, averaging over 15 fantasy points per game. That was only with 69% of the snap share. I mean, I think he gets significantly better coming into this year. Yeah, I understand. It's hard to put him higher than everyone else here for sure, especially with the draft capital, this offense. Yeah, the offense is probably the worst offense right now running back can be on. But yeah, I understand. I
just don't think he's going to get much through the air. I think Devin Singletary is going to dominate. So when I look at a guy like Rachaad White, I could see Rachaad White hitting 70, 75 targets this year. I have him projected around 65, I think. I don't see Dameon getting over like 45 at most. So there's just not that PPR ceiling for me.
That's fair. All right. Just under 4 minutes here. Take us to tier 8.
All right. Tier 8. These are guys that I couldn't really fit into tier 7, but I just wanted to mention them. Khalil Herbert. A guy that I'm super comfortable drafting because I feel confident in the ability to trade him when it matters. Right. Like, this isn't a guy I want to rock into the playoffs with, because I do think Rashad Johnson is. Sorry, I think he's a better prospect. I really do.
Yeah.
And that could happen over time. James Cook. I have been kind of off it for a long time, and my worry's been Damian Harris. I just don't see Damian Harris not being the goal line running back. Then we saw in preseason, the first time Damian Harris is healthy, James Cook gets him down the field. Damian Harris gets a goal line touchdown. I think it's gonna be heartache for James Cook owners. I could be wrong, but I just don't see a running back at that size getting goal line opportunities when you have an effective guy and Damian Harris back there. And then Brian Robinson, and finishing it off with Jet McKinnon, who, from week 9 onwards was a top 10 running back in PPR formats. I don't see his role being a threat by Isaiah Pacheco or by Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He was fantastic. He helped them get into that playoff berth, into the Super Bowl. And he was an important part of their offense. I think he will remain an important part of their offense. And then Brian Robinson is honestly there because of volume. Like, he's not a player I'm excited about. But again, if you're going heavy wide receiver, he's going to get volume. So he'll have, a 20 carry, 60-yard game where he falls into the end zone. And that will be okay at times,
Yeah, look, every single running back here makes sense. I am a big James Cook believer. Let's start with Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert makes sense. Definitely want to trade him in the second half of the season. I believe Big O Roscoe will take over, have a significant role second half. But James Cook, look, I think what's so interesting about the James Cook anti-believers, I guess you can kind of put yourself in that. It's like so many people lean on PPR opportunities, and that's what I'm leaning on. I'm leaning on the PPR opportunities. I'm leaning on him to be the first and second and third down guy. We saw that all through take it with a grain of salt, but we've seen him all through preseason. Him playing with the first team with Josh Allen, Diggs, everyone. Him getting drive down the field, and you probably want You probably want the touchdown opportunity. Someone like a Jamal Williams that kind of just scored every single touchdown. But the PPR opportunities is going to be how James Cook eats, how he's going to get his fantasy points. And I feel like if you're a James Cook anti-believer, why aren't we seeing that in that perspective? I agree. He's probably not going to get the goal line touches. That was never my stance. It was all about the PPR opportunity.
Yeah, I've given him 8% of the target share, which is 52 targets, and he still doesn't excite me.
And that's fair. And
so, I don't know. I mean, I think he'll be fine. I think there'll be weeks that you were happy that you started him, and there'll be weeks where you really weren't. I think this offense is going to revolve around Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen again. And I think in preseason's important, but the context there is that Damian Harris wasn't healthy, right? So it's hard to really take that into the season, I would say.
Sure. And anything can happen. So I'm excited to see what happens. Brian Robinson, me, I've always been a Brian Robinson believer. I think he's going to work in the air, work in the ground, goal line opportunities. I definitely see that. And Jet, so hard to kind of see what's going to happen with Pacheco and Clyde. But hey, I mean, he was a top 20 running back this past year. I mean, anything can happen. So, look, interesting setup lineup right now. I don't mind these rankings. Obviously, completely different to mine, completely different. I would even say to consensus, and that's exactly what's so exciting about doing these rankings.
Yeah, honestly, I just feel like if you're only watching people who are like exactly lining up with ADP, it's like, okay, cool. So you think like everyone else, and there's no ability for anything to be different, right? I just think I try my best to like predict what is probably not going to happen that everyone thinks is going to happen. And that's how the rankings come together along with the projections. But yeah, I understand there'll be some people who don't like certain things, and that's okay. You know, you try and get thick skin. I don't even have DeAndre Swift ranked. You know, some people are probably going to comment about that. There'll be a video out about him here soon on the channel. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Drop a like, and you know, we'll see you in the next one. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh,
it's so easy. Even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.